Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Politically Incorrect Knitters. I'm Deplorable Knitter, and I am joined, as always, by the fantastic and wonderful Anne Pinkava. Hi, Anne.
Hello.
And Anne is wearing one of her very own beautiful knitted sweaters today with
I
the Grim on it.
That's right. Depending on what you want.
Too much Harry Potter symbolism in this house.
Hey, I love me some Harry Potter symbolism.
I know. It's obvious from your sign and different things that you've got going on around there.
Yeah, it's kind of a giveaway. This episode is sponsored by Chicken Lady 5 Arts. This is our very own colorway from her, the PIK colorway, and it is fabulous and wonderful and kind of moody and one of my very favorite things. But you can get our colorway from her, or also this month's giveaway color, which is Productively Procrastinating. It's beautiful. You can enter the giveaway by commenting below, but you can go to chickenlady5arts.com and get 20% off your order with our promo code solstice20pik, which, I mean, is even cooler than a giveaway. Cheaper yarn is happier for everybody.
I love less expensive yarn. I mean, really, who can complain about it for real? So did you want to start with your knitting today?
Things that I have knit this week, mostly the Lent calendar shawl. Want to see it again? Spoilers, everybody, watch out. I just barely got today's color going, so
yeah. And it's Thursday, so if you're behind, hopefully by Saturday you've caught up just a tad.
Yeah, this is perfect. But okay, so Wednesday's color here is still attached. I haven't cut it, and I should. It's so pretty. It's just like a lovely moody purple. And then I pulled this one out today. I'm like, whoa, we're going somewhere different. Like, it made me excited. Because, and here I've just started this row, so it makes it a little more difficult to show. But we've moved on from garter bits to lacy bits. So it's been a long time since I've done like an all over lace pattern. So I admit that part of it is like, okay, there's a lot of yarn overs here. All right, we're going to do it. And then the stitch markers are all little triangles. And when I first saw them, I'm like, oh, that's really cool and artsy. I'm like, there's a reason these are mostly round. Like, they're not like terrible, but I'm finding it a little difficult, and there's a lot of them too. So it's like always arguing with my knitting, which means I'm getting very, very lazy because it's been such a long time since I've done a pattern that is as involved as this. And this is, I mean, like, it's a pattern, it's easy enough to remember the repeat, but I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I actually have to do work except for garter stitch the whole way through. Like, what's my problem?
That's funny. I've gotten the triangle stitch markers from her before, but the ones I got were much smaller. They were probably for like, size 4 needles. And I love them, but somehow they got lost somewhere. So if anybody has a lead on where to get more of those, I'm a fan. But the small ones, they're very small.
Right.
But that's really pretty. I don't do all over lace either. And that's the way I should probably do it, is by having a marker in every section, because I get confused. And then like once you miss one yarn over, the whole thing is just wrong. Whereas if you at least have your stitch markers, then when you get to the beginning of that, you can be like, wait, no, this is, you know what I mean? Like, at least it's in that little section.
I know. And also in the pattern, it's kind of clear where the repeat is. So I'm like, really, if these stitch markers are annoying me, I should just take it out. I know how many stitches are in a repeat. I'm like, Anne, that's going to be a disaster. Do not do this. Yeah. Because already there's been some times where I'm like, hang on, my stitch count is off. I got to finagle something or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's why I I'm with you. Like, I like to be like, oh, I'm a big girl, I can remember this repeat. But then also it's like a 6-stitch repeat, and I'll get to the marker and I'll be like, but I only did 5. Like, what is wrong? Why am I at the marker? Something, let's fix it.
Hang on, this isn't gonna work. But yeah, so that's been most of my work, but I also have another little project on the side, which I'm not sure. This is probably going to be a gift. And by looking at it, it's probably going to be obvious who the gift is for. So, nobody tell. But anyways, this is a mitten sans thumb, and it is a giant squid. And the palm is the big old Cthulhu, which is hilarious to me.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're working on these. As a person who is friends with Anne, I've heard about them for many months, but I'm glad to see that you've actually done it. And I love the colors. Like, it's awesome.
Right. Well, yes, as a person who is friends with Anne, you're going to hear about like 15 projects I don't make, or maybe eventually, like once I've talked about them, I'm going to go ahead and make them, even though. So starting up on it, this is a little tight, and I'm not sure, like, okay, this will probably fit exactly when it's done for my hand, but they're not for me. So I'm like, well, I have kind of big hands for a woman, on average. I'm not a small gal, but maybe, it's like, okay, is this good? Is this bad? I don't know. I also want to go back once they're done and put like little red dots in the eyes. I think that'd be very funny. But
You do what makes you happy. I like them. They're very, very nice.
They're so much fun. But I don't know, it's the same thing too, where I'm like, you mean I actually have to follow a pattern? Lame. And there's like this little squid up and down tentacle thing, and they're not all even. Like, it's not like one up, one down. They're just, some go up higher and some go up lower. And I'm like, you mean I have to count every single time? It's not just intuitive. It's not like I have to spend the entire time I am knitting this, except for this like little plain section on the palm. It's like, I mean, my eyes have to be glued to the chart the whole time. What's with this?
Yeah, I had a test knit I did for a good friend of ours that you'll see at some point. And at first, I was having the same resentment you were, because it was a charted pattern and I had to follow the chart every single row. And about halfway through, I like got the hang of it and it got easier. But as a person who does my own patterns and like I kind of wing a lot of my stuff, I'm kind of like, we'll see if this works. So it was really hard for me to be like, all right, how many stitches? Okay, I have to count 3, and then it's gonna be this color. Like, I was over it. I did it though. I want to point that out.
Right. That's the thing too, that it's like all this intarsia has made me so lazy, because like this sweater, majority very, very plain. The wolf, dog, grim is the complicated part. You like, so if you're watching TV or something, you're like, okay, sure, as you knit or purl or rib or whatever around. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then you're like, oh, I'm coming up to the intarsia bit. You look at your chart, you do your thing, you make sure your stitches are all even, and then whoop, you're off again. And it's like only a little tiny bit of your mental space needs to be held by, make sure you get your stitches exactly right. And I'm like, no, this is an all over stranded mitten. It will be okay the whole time. Make sure. All right.
Yeah, I get it. It's not as easy as it seems sometimes, but hey, you did it. Now, just don't get second syndrome. Don't get second mitt syndrome where you just don't do it.
I know. I have the cuff for the second one started, but I also I just have a chart. So it's like, oh, I have to I didn't even like write down how many rows I did for my cuff. So I'll have to like recount my cuff to figure out what I did. And I made them like this past week. I should know. But anyways, it's been a surprisingly quick project, but even so, that it has its own trials and tribulations. But anyways, what you working on?
Well, when you were talking about, we were talking about mitts and second syndrome and whatever. When I was on my vacation, I started a pair of mitts. I've never shown them to you guys. And honestly, I was just sitting here going, I have no idea where those are. So I'm going to try to find them for next week. this week I have finished my hat. This is going to be a pattern for the girls in my class. So I have to write it up. I actually have to write it up tonight because I need to have it on hand for tomorrow. But it's, even though it looks really fancy, it's actually pretty straightforward. So I'm not super worried about it. They're still struggling with like being able to read their work. So I'm wondering if this might be a little bit too complex for them. But you know what? The Latvian braid is not as hard as it looks. And I have faith they can do it. And then this section of stripes and then another Latvian braid. And then if worse comes to worse and we don't get to the color work section, we can either do it next semester or they can just make a regular hat or an ear warmer. So I'm not gonna sweat it because we're gonna see what we got. So I finished this, like I said, I'm in love with it. And these are actually big box yarns. This colored one is Big Twist from Joann's, and I don't remember exactly what it's called, but this other one is a Hobby Lobby yarn and it's wool. And so this hat has absolutely gorgeous stretch, and I made it for like, you know, $10 or something worth of yarn, and I was pretty stoked. Not even, because I have portions of both skeins left. But yeah, I was just excited about it. I love all of our yarns and sponsors and friends, but there's something nice about like being able to find something that you can buy like 30 of at the store and not feel like super guilty. Like, yeah. So anyway, this is this. And then I started a new pattern, which is currently this far along.
Fun.
So this one is, I showed this yarn off last week. I got it from Yarn Cafe Creations, and it's a worsted weight. This is called Old Fashioned Hard Candy. And then there's going to be some color work. It's just starting. It's teeny tiny baby color work right there. And obviously my contrast color is black. I think I'm using Barocco or Plymouth or, you know, one of those brands for the black. But yeah, so that's something I'm working on. Pretty excited about that.
Nice.
And I'm trying to bang out some projects this month because I'm doing the fundraiser for St. Jude. So if you guys want to sponsor me, everybody who donates to St. Jude through one of my links, I have one on Facebook and I have one on Instagram. Everybody who donates through those will be entered into like a little raffle, and one person will get to pick something that I finished this month. So if you guys are watching this going, oh my gosh, that hat is super cute, I love it, maybe it could be yours. So that's what I got going on. Like I said, I'm trying to work on some kind of quicker projects so that I can keep raising money for them. Something I'm working on doing. And then if you've been watching us, if you have not been living in a hole in the ground, Anne has been talking about Roald Dahl a lot, right? So here's James. Yes, James and the Giant Peach, and then Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and the Twits, and Matilda, and the fantastic Mr. Fox. I loved this movie.
That movie was incredible.
I loved it. And for some reason, I got 2 copies of The Witches. I must have accidentally had 2 of them in my car. I got all of these from Thrift Books, which is a nice used, they do not sponsor me, but they are a secondhand bookstore that I like to use. I also got my stepdad 3 pretty new books for like $15-20. No, probably more like $15 for his birthday. So it's pretty nice. You know, you get good quality for not cover price. So yeah, get your Roald Dahl books, people, because they are censoring them.
They
so
are.
If you don't want to be involved in that, get them.
Not only that, we were talking a little bit beforehand, and this goes right into the news unless you have any more knitting.
Nope, that's what I had.
Okay. Going right into the news that R.L. Stine, who wrote the Goosebumps book, he's 79 years old, and he's like, hey, you're changing my books without my permission. I have approved no changes. I'm still alive. You're not like dealing with an estate here. That, you know, people, you know, that again, it's the same old thing. People are no longer chubby, they're cheerful, that they're no longer, you know, this, they're that. And it's the whole way through. It's like, these are, again, and also it's like, well, not just starting with children's books, because they're also doing James Bond. But yeah, and what really gets me is that this is Scholastic, which is a different publishing house than Puffin, which is a different publishing house from, I can't remember it now, but a different publishing house from who owns James Bond.
Right.
Like this is not just okay, so there's one publishing house and it's kind of going rogue, which would be bad enough. But it's like, no, several of them at the same time have suddenly decided that now is when we flip the switch. And
well, don't you think that one scene that probably what happens is one publishing house did it, and then the others saw that they did it, and yeah, there was some backlash, but not a lot, and so they all started putting their own plans into motion. That would be my guess, you know.
I mean, to a certain extent. I know that there was enough backlash over Roald Dahl, which we already said before, but to recap in case you missed it, that they're like, okay, we're not changing the books. I mean, we'll have a classic edition and then we'll have edition for modern audiences, except everyone's Kindle's updated.
Mm-hmm.
That
I'm not a modern audience. Please don't include me in that.
Exactly.
I want to be as old-fashioned as I can be. Thank you very much.
I know. There was a tweet last week, that everyone wants sensitivity readers, and Gary from Neurotic tweets out, "I'd like to be an insensitivity reader, please." Like, sir, this text, way not offensive enough. I'm sorry. You need to go harder. This is just bland.
Seriously, though, I think that that's more accurate. We need to have somebody saying, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to like everything that we're saying. Mm-hmm. It's fine. Freaking nonsense, dude.
Right. And I don't know. I was thinking this past week, and again, this is totally off subject, whatever. But I was, I don't know if we mentioned it, but it was something about people working on AI and AI that would produce, quote, content for people's social media accounts after they died.
Yeah, we mentioned that last week.
That creepy crap. All right. And then, okay, so I was thinking about the traditional term of the word zombie, which is actually a big subject matter in one of the James Bond books. I think that's Live or Let Die, or Live and Let Die. I'm sorry. Anyways, not a, ooh-wee, Mr. Stark. That one's got some surprising bits for the modern audience. But the traditional view of zombie, we think chemical spill, something happened, mindless beings, and they're eating brains. Okay, the older version of zombie, the version that the comic books would not allow to be a part of, that they had their sort of censorship code, that they said, something's absolutely inappropriate. We're not allowing you to publish this for children. Okay. And whatever you think of the censorship code. Okay. Again, old audiences, this is what was not allowed. That the older version of zombie was someone's body that had been reanimated and possessed, basically, by the person. That it wasn't mindless eating brains. It was mindless because it was under that person's control, using witchcraft, voodoo, whatever. Okay. And that, again, considered inappropriate. We're not doing it. No. And anyways, I was thinking about that. Again, the more old-fashioned views of respect for the dead, that, if you respect their life, you kind of respect their death and burial, and also, not being cool with witchcraft as well. But the sort of like, no, there's necro-social media, again, which we complained about last week, but still, that that respect is also lacking for the dead as it is for the living. And anyways, what used to be inappropriate for children and now what's inappropriate for children are two very different things. And a lot of the stuff in old-fashioned book, you're like, wow, like, okay, I love fairy tales from like the 1920s because they're scary. And but they're like, no, man, that's okay for kids, but other things are inappropriate for kids. And now we're like, no, Johnny, the monster is not that scary. Everything's lovely and wussified, but please let me tell you about my sex life. That's a very different mentality.
So I'm going to put in a picture right about here. I posted it on my Instagram yesterday, and it's a rainbow, a guy holding a gun to a silhouette's head. And it's like, love is love. And then it's got all these, like, the progression of how we've gotten to where we are. And you were talking about things that are inappropriate for children. And I've only had one troll on it so far, knock on wood. And she was like, if my kid wants to go to a drag show, I'm going to let my kid go to a drag show. Okay, cool. So why does your kid know what a drag show is? Because I have 2 kids. They don't know what it is. It's just like I'm not going to let them watch R-rated movies because they are children. And so therefore, they should not be watching an R-rated movie. They are inappropriate. There's a reason we have ratings. There's a reason the drag shows used to happen at night in nightclubs, because they are not for everybody. And that's okay. There are things that are okay. Freaking nonsense.
Like, okay, whose 4 or 5-year-old kid wakes up one day like, Ma, I want to go down to the Moulin Rouge? Like,
yeah,
like,
I'm totally interested in seeing a dude dance in a dress. Like, but that's adult entertainment. Right. The first time I was even invited to go to one, I was in my 20s. It didn't go because it didn't appeal, but my friends went and had a great time, and that's fine. That was them having an adult activity. Probably got trashed too, which makes everything funnier. I mean, it does. So, but that was her thing. Well, what if your kid wants to? What if my kid wants to play with fire? I'm the parent. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Right? Like, sometimes you can just be the adult. You don't have to let these things go on just because other people are like, oh, it's fine for kids. So, sorry, little kind of went on your zombie thing though.
Exactly.
But kind of speaking about my little meme there, I found out today that the term cisgender was coined in 91. Okay. And the dude that coined it was a German sexologist or sex doctor or whatever their name is. And I didn't write his name down, so I can't tell you what it was. But he was one of those dudes that was out there saying, hey, if a pedophile isn't acting on his desires, we should be kind and compassionate to him or them. And so the dude that has labeled all of us people that were born in our bodies and enjoy being in our bodies and don't want to change it as cisgender was a pedophile apologist. And so, everybody's like, oh, they don't want your kids. Oh, they don't want to have pedophilia and this and that. And, you're just saying that because you don't like us. And no, a lot of the stuff is rooted in some really shady beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't want to be called cis. I'm a woman. Hi, I was born that way. I'm going to stay that way. Even if I cut all my hair off and tried to grow a beard, which I don't know. Now that I've gone through menopause, maybe I could. But I'm still a woman. And I'm tired of these people being like, oh, well, it's just an identifier. I'm not using an identifier that was coined by a man who said that pedophilia is a good thing. I don't think he had my best interest in heart. I don't think he has anybody's best interest at heart. He was probably a creeper. A lot. Just 2 cents on that.
No, there's a lot of that going around. I mean, like we've mentioned ages ago, the money studies that were just vicious, cruel things, where the study on, if that he had 2 twin boys and one was raised as a girl, one was raised as a boy, and he made them do, again, sorry if y'all have kids listening, but do don't. don't
Don't have your kids here. This is not appropriate.
no. Anyways, that basically made them do sexual things together, and it was very, very bad. And both of them committed suicide later. Okay,
Right,
it was
right.
awful.
And I
But
believe,
the basis of gender ideology was with that guy.
yeah, and I believe the one that they raised as a girl, they dismembered him. So he had no idea that he wasn't a girl because they had done that to him at a young age. First off, fuck's wrong with the parents?
Yeah.
Who does that to their child? Second off, what doctor, what hospital, what person was like, yes, sir, I think you should be allowed to run this experiment. It sounds like a good plan. No, nobody said that ever.
Yeah,
Well, somebody did, but
but
so there was something else I was going to tell you about all that. Oh, did you see the thing in California where I'm not entirely certain what it was because once again I didn't take notes, but there was a new law that they passed or were trying to pass that was about oral and anal sex with underage children were not going to be a crime anymore as long as they were consenting or willing or something along those lines. I'm going by your face that you might not have heard about it or
may have heard something about this, but can we just do a big everybody hold hands here. We're going to say the thing. Children cannot consent. They don't know what's going on. And also, come on, little Johnny. Again, poor Johnny. He's having a rough day in these analogies. But it's like, oh, talk about coercion. Like, you thought it was okay, right? That is like abuse tactic number one.
right.
That thinking
right.
that your fault, thinking that you did something, thinking that you
Yes, and hit the nail on the head. Children cannot consent. My child can tell me all kinds of things that they want to do. Some of them are very bad ideas, like, wanting to ride their bike on the side of a busy highway. There are things that we don't allow just because it's not safe. And as parents, that's our job. And the fact that they are acting like these things, telling you, I've been saying it, that this is what they want. It's the evil, they're chipping it away. It goes slow, slow, slow. People don't notice. And then all of a sudden, hey, they consented. They said they were willing. They were fine with it. It is not okay.
it is not. And I mean, like, why are there laws that you cannot show pornographic images to children? Why? Because it's grooming. Why? Because it affects them. Because what's normal gets all messed up. That's why all these things are wrong. Sorry.
Sorry. I don't mean to bring these things up. Was there anything else? I wanted to mention January 6th, but I don't think we're ready for that yet.
Okay.
I think you've got other things, right?
Well, moving on from one terrible topic to another. I mean, that's sort of that whole big gender ideology, censorship, all of these things are an issue. What's appropriate for children? But also, guys, Brexit is dead.
So what does that mean? They just stopped it?
Okay, it means that, so Rich Sunak, he who also was installed under dubious ways, that the man who can lose the Conservative Party leadership is suddenly prime minister, and you don't hear much about him anymore. Anyways, so they had this thing called the Windsor Framework. So, so you have the UK, and then part of the UK is Northern Ireland, and you have regular Ireland, which is separate and part of the EU, and Northern Ireland, which is a part of the UK. Okay. And Northern Ireland, who has just been crapped on by everybody, and Ireland wants them to come back, and Northern Ireland doesn't want to be with Ireland. Okay, that they voted on this, they had the Irish troubles because they did not want to be a part of Ireland. But the BBC, and it's a very leftist line saying, oh, of course you should get together. It's like, well, we don't want to, but you should. No, really, we're separate for a reason. Anyways, so because of Brexit, they put a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland, and they don't allow goods to move easily between them, in a way to punish England and to punish Northern Ireland. Okay. So 40% of all of the border good checks for the entirety of the European Union happened between Ireland and Northern Ireland. Okay, basically they're making it a pain in the butt for everybody. They're making it harsh. You can know doing business over the border is very difficult. I mean, it would be in a way, it'd be like all of a sudden it's border stops and difficult between, you know, Minnesota and South Dakota, or, you know, whatever your next door state is, as if suddenly there's a hard border, you need checks, and goods and services cannot no longer be transferred between them. So this happened, and okay, we're going to resolve it. It's going to be great. I was on the radio at work, and I was so ticked. It was a CBS News bulletin, and it was talking about, oh, Rishi Sunak, that he's in Northern Ireland with Ursula von der Leyen, who's the leader of the EU, and they're having peace talks. And I almost spit, because I'm sitting here like, what kind of moron do you think the American public is? Okay, and to be fair, the American public isn't all up on this, which is totally fair. Who pays attention to niche British politics? Okay, that's all cool.
Yeah,
fine.
That's you. That's mostly you. But yeah, some people do.
That's true. It's like, okay, vast majority of people aren't going to know what's going on, but they said peace talks. Like, yeah. It's still the Irish Troubles. Like, it's 40 years ago. And, oh, well, we're just fools. We don't know that there's not a war on in Ireland currently. Like, you know, I think if that was happening, we might have heard about it. But no, it's like, thanks. The 80s called, as Obama said. They want their foreign policy back. What is this? It's like, oh, well, don't worry, I'll just keep listening to my crapo tunes while you give me this CBS News bulletin. Anyways, I was ticked. But so, and that's how they're framing the entire thing, because what the basis of that hard border is the Good Friday Agreement, which was, you know, put in to kind of end the Irish Troubles, you know, to stop all the bombings, because Ireland's not a fun and happy place. Anyways, so that all happened. Okay, so now we have I just said it, now I lost it. Westminster. Sorry. So now we have the Westminster framework, as called, and the Westminster framework is everything is so nice and happy. Oh, actually, but we put this little thing in that the entire point of England leaving the European Union was so that they left the single market system. Okay. Now they have this fun little regulatory thing saying, and by the way, all of the UK will follow the single market system to the T, and in fact will enforce it harder. So they no longer have representation in the EU, but they are going to whip the people into whatever the EU says they ought to be. This entire thing is punishment. This entire thing is punishment for the British people daring to say no to the European Union, rather like a lot of things have been punishment for Trump voters for daring to think differently. I would say the insane punishment of the January 6th protesters, who video on Tucker just walking around, not a problem, we'll get there. But no, that has been very much systematically pulling back what people have done. And anyways, and now there's like weird regulations that if you have backyard chickens in England, they want you to register your chickens like individually, which is psycho. Farming in England is psycho anyways. Farming in a lot of places is nuts. But yeah, that's not necessarily connected to the EU single market. But again, insane regulations from a quote conservative government. And yeah, it's just abuse to the people for daring to change. I mean, there's talks back and forth. The main opposition leader in England is Keir Starmer, who has some weird anti-Semitic connections, just saying. But it's all the, oh, well, it will, if he were to come back, would he rejoin the EU? No, that's irrelevant. That's really irrelevant, because the people of England voted to leave the EU, and then they're taking all of the little regulatory systems and being like, yeah, in practicality, in banner wise and headline wise, yeah, sure, we're out of the EU, but all of the actions are the same.
Yeah. But yeah, being like, oh, if so-and-so comes back, are we going to go back? That has nothing to do with anything. If they voted, then they voted, and that's the story. Whether or not the person in charge likes it. If they wanted to go back, then I would assume they would need to do another vote, because you can't just override what the people said. Can't? Well, I mean, they don't care. They, but
Well,
in theory, you should not just override what people say. Right? Like, and the news makes my head hurt every week. Want to talk about January 6th for a minute?
Woohoo.
So I assume most people have seen at least some of the clips, have listened to Tucker this past week, because it's kind of a big deal. I mean, it was.
Is. And okay, so there's been lots of footage about January 6th, which, if you're more nerdy on it, as I suspect many of our, or at least some of our audience are, that we've seen video of January 6th, weird video, lots of cops, people, again, going on the little velvet lines in certain rooms, that, you know, basically it was a tour group gone slightly rowdy. Like, there wasn't much going on here as far as protest goes. But there's further video put out on Tucker Carlson about that, the quote buffalo head guy, that he had
The
like
shaman.
the shaman, the QAnon shaman, that he had like cops around him the entire time. And like at one point they like tried to open a locked door for this guy. Like, what are you
and they couldn't get in, and they took him to a different door.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was like running rampant and like trying doors, and I heard Chuck Schumer talking about, I had to flee for my life, and I'm like, maybe he did, because I mean, he's Chuck Schumer, and I think there's a lot of people who don't care for him.
No, gosh,
no, I don't mean that.
His little bit where Chuck Schumer said it was cherry picked video. It's like,
oh yeah, I've seen that all over like liberal Instagram too. Like, oh yeah, they're showing 1 minute of video. What about all the rest of the minutes? Okay, so.
Okay, you see, we've had a lot of minutes before, and we've released additional minutes.
Yeah. And I think that the important part is nobody's saying that some of it didn't get out of control, right? Like, there were people that acted in ways they shouldn't have, but it is not what they are saying it was. So they have been calling this insurrection the worst thing that's happened in our country, the worst thing that's happened in our country since the Civil War, right? That's what they've been saying.
Or 9/11, depending on who says it. Which is
I think it's something. Yeah, I think it's something
Biden
to do with
since Civil War.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the biggest attack on our. Well, yeah, 9/11 was still bigger, but anyway.
Yeah, a bit.
So, even in the DC is where I was going with that. Like, even because the Pentagon was attacked and things. But yeah, so since the Civil War, but nobody talks about in 1954 when like radicals came in and shot 4 senators, or how about in 2020 when Antifa stormed the White House and the Capitol and set the church on fire, and in that attack, 180 police officers were injured. It's a bigger number than January 6th. I mean, I'm not super great, but.
And also part of the videos that Tucker put out is like, hey, you know, Brian Sicknick, who, okay, again, very shortly after, It's like, okay, they said the first thing was he was hit in the head with a fire extinguisher by a protester and died. And then it was very quietly, yeah, actually, he died the next day of some sort of medical issue. There is video of him walking around the whole time with a helmet among the crowd.
And
No
the
fire
video
extinguisher.
shows, right. And the video shows him walking around after the time that they said he died.
Mhm.
And, Liz Cheney tweeted about it. Has she corrected herself? Nope. How about
No.
Mitt Romney? Nope. Nope. They're just a bunch of cowards. Right now.
I know the turtle went out there and said how awful it was. I'm like, psh.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, but
anyway.
Chuck Schumer saying it's that whatever you do, don't watch Tucker Carlson. It was the most shameful hour on television. I'm like, honey bun, you do not have that thing on often enough.
So the thing that Tucker said about it was that when people are caught in a lie, what do? Do they say, all right, you caught me? Or do they double down and make a bigger fuss? Because that's really what it seems like. They have doubled down. Like when I know my kid is lying to me, and I'll be like, are you sure that that's what happened? And they look at me and they go, yeah, it is. I know that that's what happened. It takes a while for me to usually get them to come around to what really happened. You know what I mean? Because the first thing you want to do is self-preservation, right? So we've been lying. We've made it so they can't release this for so long. It's been years. People's lawyers were not allowed to have this video. The shaman dude was not allowed to have this video for his defense.
Yeah, he got like
that violates his rights.
Yeah. And
it's insane.
It absolutely does violate his rights. Okay, he's still an American citizen. And okay, he's a guy dressed funny at a protest. Okay, sure. But that's not a reason to lock the guy up for 3 years. Not to mention all the time he's been locked up since January 6th, which is also against his rights.
Yeah.
The whole speedy and just trial.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. But I want to say also, I saw Merrick Garland, who is our attorney general, right? Charge of legal shit in the US. He said that 100 cops were injured on the 6th and 5 died. This is the guy that's in charge of, law and stuff.
Right.
Just flat out lying. And
it's like sir, the rest of us know that the only person who died was Ashley Babbitt, okay?
Yes, still just Ashley Babbitt, unfortunately. And if 5 people had died at this, it would have been a horrible thing. But it didn't happen. And even like you said, they real quietly came out and said, well, that Brian Sicklick guy, he died next day. We're not really sure why, or natural causes, or whatever the case was. And you and I have been saying that for years. You can go back.
I know. You can go back, watch our old videos. We'll still.
Unless they get taken down because of our misinformation, but whatever.
It's like the whole Breonna Taylor thing, that there was just something that came out. And again, there was a little news alert. And again, I'm standing there at work and the radio's going. And I'm like, she was not. They're like, the first thing, it was a no-knock warrant and they got the wrong house. They didn't get the wrong house. She and her boyfriend were together in this crime. Look, it's sad that she died, but also it's still not what they're still running the same lie, the same verifiable lie, verifiable lie that we out here have known has been a lie for actual years.
I don't understand how they even justify this stuff.
Kind of segue on from that. Okay, so Mark Stein has been found guilty by Ofcom for vaccine misinformation. Yeah, guess which way the science is swinging, though? Okay, the vaccine misinformation about AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca vaccine has very quietly been pulled from America, the UK, and most of Europe.
Gee, I wonder why.
I wonder why that is. And also, which is an example that Stein uses a lot. Okay, so he has been knocked for vaccine misinformation. On the other hand, there was this lovely doctor on Good Morning Britain who said that, oh, but after you take the AstraZeneca shot, that it's like after several days, it's almost impossible for you to get COVID. And then everyone's like, oh, why haven't we said this? This is so great. It's because it's not true. It's because it wasn't true then, and it's not true now.
It's just as likely that rainbows and unicorns will shoot out of your butt after you have it done. So, whatever. I can say whatever I want too. That's what they do. You can't get COVID, but you'll get rainbows.
That's right.
This is not medical advice. Please don't listen to anything I say.
Exactly. No approved substance will make rainbows shoot out your butt. Just to be clear.
Yeah, some unapproved substances might make you think it's happening, but
just don't do it. That's solid advice from us.
Oh man, sorry, Anne. The nonsense just makes my head explode, though. It really does.
But yeah. Anyway, so Stein is doing what he was going to do the entire time, which is taking them to court and fighting it. And in England, there's more chance of that speedy trial, if not a just one. So at least that will come up soon, as opposed to his, lawsuits in America still with free speech over the Michael Mann climate change thing. But as I said before, this is a guy who's won his free speech and won free speech lawsuits for more free speech in Canada and Australia, to a certain extent in America, and he can do it again in England. And which sucks for him to a certain extent, because that he's always the one footing the bill for this nonsense. And also that old Toby Young, leader of the Free Speech Union, I cannot believe how he flaked out. It's so shameful. Like, it's so shockingly shameful that he's like, oh, well, you have to have regulation. Well, I talked to the Ofcom guy and he was okay. And I'm like, dude, you just don't get it. And a couple other people too, that's like, oh, well, of course, if you do bad things, you'll be punished. And it's like, you're missing the point entirely. This isn't you said a swear word before the watershed moment. This is getting facts and figures out to the public so they can decide, not just one narrative fits all the time. But
well, if it's not their narrative, they're going to do anything they can to shut you up, because that's really what they want. They don't want free thinkers. They don't want people who ask questions. They just want to be the people in charge, I guess. But I find it shocking that the guy in charge of the Free Speech Union is like, oh yeah, they're not bad. Like, I don't think that you and I are looking at the same thing. Like, I don't see how that could be.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, okay, he's still doing campaigns to help this person or that person and rally around. Just like, awesome. But you're missing the big thing. You're missing the big fight. It's kind of, I don't know, thinking of conservative commentators and how a lot of conservative commentators get bogged down with the little things, and they don't bother hooking them to the big things. Like AOC said this today, or AOC said that today. Okay, AOC says a lot of stupid crap, and
right.
This happens. But unless all the little stupid things AOC is said is connected to a bigger issue, then why are we talking about AOC? Like, right. Okay, so you have all of these stupid little things about, okay, not stupid little things, but it's like, okay, we have these free speech issues where it's like, okay, this person is getting fired and it's good. We should stand with and fight for this person. Okay, this person's, is getting canceled for this reason. That's great. But also, if basically you can't put medical facts during a pandemic on a mainstream TV program, that's not allowed. That is a massive, massive issue for people all around the world.
No, it's yeah. The stuff that they're trying to feed us now is just mind-boggling. It really is. Yeah, and they're so afraid of words. I don't get it. Um, Chris Rock's new special came out this week. I have not yet seen it because every time I go to watch it, my kids are around, and as a parent, I don't allow my children to watch uh, most any stand-up comedy because it's not appropriate for them. Um,
Speaking
but
of, Crowder's back. I'm so excited.
good,
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
he signed a thing with Rumble. Sorry, not to interrupt. I'm excited.
No, it's totally fine. That's cool. But Chris Rock, one of the things he did say on his thing was people who say that words are hurt have never been punched in the face. I think we need to get more. Yeah, people need to actually know that having your feelings hurt and stuff is just not. It's yeah. You know what I mean, man.
Mhm.
You're like, yeah, whatever. Some people need to be punched in the face. That's the answer. Moving on.
Well, okay. Yeah, we have a lot of not real problems going around, which is
First world
surprising.
problems for sure.
First world problems, which again is surprising in the middle of our extreme inflation and the rest of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that inflation, nobody wants to talk about it. It's not happening, but people are struggling. I went to the grocery store this week and I only paid $170 something for my groceries for my family. And I was stoked because it's the first time since before Christmas, I think I was able to pay under $200. And that's not, yeah, there's real stuff going on, but they want us. See, that's the thing though. There's real stuff going on, but they don't want us to focus on that. They want us to be worried about pronouns and all these different things, and because that's how they control us, by keeping us fighting with each other and not fighting them.
Okay, while you were talking, I looked down at my notes and I just realized that I quoted the thing down. 20% of customs, everybody. 20% of customs between Northern Ireland and Ireland. Sorry, not 40%. Live on air, fact check. My apologies. But yes, they do. Again, with, I don't know, in my mind, again, from someone who watches sci-fi television, it's the monster of the week. Okay, that you have different TV formats where you have, like, sometimes it's a big overarching story and some programming, a lot of sci-fi stuff, but Twilight Zone or Doctor Who or Star Trek or whatever. Sometimes there's a big season finale, but most of the episodes are, here's a monster, here's a problem, we fix it. Okay, here's this. It's a green glob monster this week, and next week after that it's a robot and something over here and it's an alien invasion. Okay, and we have the monster of the week. And I feel like a lot of the issues and a lot of the way we talk about the issues is very monster of the week stuff, and it has nothing to do with the overarching problem. That's like, oh no, this week this is the issue. Oh man, that's a big issue. Okay, we better do something about this. Somebody do something about this. We need to enact policy now to do something about this monster of the week. And then we never hear about it again.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it'll reoccur. It'll come back like the Daleks, but it's not like,
I don't know what a Daleks is, but
they're the trash can robot alien things from Doctor Who.
I mean, obviously.
Obviously.
Why wouldn't I know that?
They're the biggest. They're the most known of the series, but it's okay. It's okay. I got you. But
I learn something new every day. So yeah, no, I think you're right though. And I think that it's easy to, when you're infighting, when you're worried about liberal and conservative and drag shows, and I mean, I think this stuff is important, don't get me wrong, but I also think that it's a way to distract us peons from really the stuff that they're doing behind the scenes that they don't want us to know about. So
yeah, and again, it's a way to, it's like, okay, whatever is happening, and we're not saying that, and obviously news is important and politics is important, and what leaks out from politics attaches to the rest of us, definitely. But yeah, it's also, how do we look at it? are we looking at it like, well, my side is good because we're the good guys? It's like, okay, why? There's this kind of crappy Tumblr post that gets shared around, screenshot or whatever. It's like, draw a monster. What makes it a monster? And it's supposed to be like, oh, wow, no, we're not really monsters anyways. It's a no. Why is that wrong? And why is this right? Not just a you're wrong. It's a hang on. Why is it wrong? There was I was talking with a friend and they said this little video and it was about policy during the Depression. It was a history video. And I think it was Hank Green, who is a leftist, but he does little history clip things. And he was saying that the real problem with the Great Depression is that the government didn't come in soon enough, and that they should have just like spread money around and helped people and daisies and sunshine and roses. Like, yeah, a lot of government control happened about this. And if your solution to the problem is the government must come in and take over, and after all, why don't you want the government to take over? If they had taken over sooner, people wouldn't have died sooner. Like the people who are like, we should have locked down sooner. That's the problem. It was inefficient. Not the lockdown itself is a problem. The government control is a problem. You must hate people if you don't want the government to come in and give money. And when you ask questions like, where is this money coming from? Are you really helping people? Isn't it getting worse? FDR also killed a lot of cows because they're like, oh, these dumb farmers, they'll keep the cows alive and not feed their kids. They took gold from the population, which is pretty sick and twisted, that they did these horrible things. And it's like, well, you should have done it sooner. That's obviously the issue. And it's things like that. That's like, why is that bad? Why is other policy better? Why is personal responsibility good? Why is freedom good? Why do we want freedom of speech? Why is censorship bad? Even if you don't necessarily like what's in a book. There needs to be a certain first principles. Okay, explain. Okay, what should we do? What is the historical examples? Why? You need to get back to the first principles of things instead of them good, or we're good, they're bad, sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. Yeah. And we're not going to solve it. But we will bring you guys the news while we try to pretend we might or could.
Oh, and also last week, we had the little plug for Let Them Live, which is a great organization. If you missed the plug, that Let Them Live is an organization that helps mothers who are considering abortions, that they help them out normally financially, because it's over 70% of people, of women seeking abortions do it for financial reasons. So they are specifically addressing, helping if you need housing, if you need this, and not helping them financially, but also like, okay, we can get you stuff, we can get someone to help you, we can sit with you through this sort of a thing to help people choose life. And Amy from Two Sisters and Some Yarn, she had a little post about, because she is a volunteer for Let Them Live, but she also gathers knit items to then send them out to mothers. So she has a post on her page about things specifically, but she mentioned, I mean, like anything really, receiving blankets, baby clothes, toys, all of that's nice. But she said specifically hats, and not only newborn hats, but hats for like toddlers and older kids, that, for the rest of the family, basically. And Jill
and oh, I'm sorry. And she also mentioned hats for babies that are a little bit older, because if it's a summer baby, they'll want a hat when the weather changes. So not just brand new newborn stuff, but sizing for everybody. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. But
is that what you were gonna say?
No, along those lines, but yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so yes, that's to follow up on what Amy has.
And you can contact her at Two Sisters and Some Yarn on Instagram. I don't think they have a Facebook, do they?
I'm not sure. I'm not on Facebook much anymore.
Me neither. So you can contact her on Instagram for sure, and we'll find out other places too. I'll put it in the link, the description box below. But I think that's all. So Anne, please show us our beautiful yarn again.
Whoa, it's lovely. Here, one second. I'm going to take it out of its wrapper. It's going to be ultra fancy. Ooh.
That is fancy.
It is fancy, and I love it so much. It's so beautiful. This is our Politically Incorrect Knitters colorway from Chicken Lady 5 Arts. And you can get 20% off your order at chickenlady5arts.com with our code Solstice. I almost got the whole ad read. I was so close. With our code Solstice20 PIK for 20% off your order.
Yep. So get
sets.
What's up?
Get mini skein sets, get all sorts of cool things.
Yeah, no, not follow her, but sign up for her newsletter because she sends emails, and then the emails are pictures of her yarn, and it makes you go, oh, it's yarn. And then it's awesome. I may have gotten some yarn from her last week that could possibly be made into a tinfoil hat. So we'll talk about that when I get it.
I know I've been kind of eyeing some of her sparkly yarn too, because I'm not really a big sparkly yarn person. Okay. Just I don't sparkle a lot. Ain't a vampire here. But I have a couple of design ideas that I'm really kind of thinking of, that there's like some things I'm like, hang on, this would be fun. Oh, and also Neil with Blocked magazine is coming out pretty soon now, so check that out when it does. But Neil had a little promo of a pattern that he has, which would look absolutely stunning in some gold sparkly yarn. So I'm kind of excited.
That is exciting. Yeah, so get on Chicken Lady's email list, go to chickenlady5arts.com, use our code Solstice20 PIK. Check out my Patreon if you're so inclined. There's a Discord, there's Zoom knit nights, there's different things. I just ordered the yarn for this month's subscription box, so if you guys join now, you'll have to wait till next month to get yours, because that's how it works here. And then
also, so we are on YouTube and Rumble. Rumble is getting bigger all the time, so definitely check us out on there, Politically Incorrect Knitters. We both have our own private Instagram pages. You have Facebook, I have Twitter. My patterns are on Lovecrafts, which are awesome.
Yep, and mine are on Galilee Life if you want to look for them. No more Etsy for this girl, so that's a place to go. I'm
not off yet, but it's worse every day. So
yeah, it'll be soon. But yeah, so follow us, check us out, follow our friends because they're cool people, and we'll catch you guys next week. Ooh, on Tuesday for Live from the Knitting Wars.
That's right. See you then.
Cool. All right, bye guys.
Bye.